This video and all of its contents, including any opinions expressed by the narrator, are strictly for entertainment purposes only and is not intended in any way as a substitute for professional services and consultation from a licensed therapist, doctor, attorney, or other licensed professional service provider. Each person must make their own life decisions, and those decisions are theirs. Welcome back to Find Your Alpha. I'm back at you this week with another terrific video story, and you can see the title on your screen. Guy finally decides to split up with girlfriend who cheated on him 2 years ago, and he says, "I'm out." Now let's get into this story and see what it's all about. He starts off and he says, "My girlfriend and I have been together for nearly 6 years and have lived together for the past 3. 2 years ago, she confessed that she had physical contact with a punk-ass soy boy who lives in the same area we do. My initial reaction was disbelief, but when I realized she wasn't joking, I left the apartment and went to stay at my cousin's place. My plan was to stay with him for a while until I could find a new place of my own, and he was cool with that. During the time I was away, my girlfriend begged me nonstop to come back home. She swore it was just a stupid mistake and she'd never do it again. First of all, he says, it wasn't just a stupid mistake, as she went back a second time before ending it and confessing to me. So this girl liked it so much she had to go back one more time, and then she said, you know what, I'll confess to my boyfriend after that. After many days of begging and giving me many S-word favors, I finally gave in and moved back in. So even though he was staying over there with his cousin, he was still going back and visiting her and taking advantage of these S-word favors, as he calls them. Our apartment lease was coming due, and I agreed to stay living with her and splitting the expenses if she agreed to have my name removed from the lease and utility bills. I wanted this so I could bolt if things didn't work out. She agreed to this and renewed the lease for 1 additional year in her name only. Because of her income and credit history, the landlord made her pay an additional security deposit, which she struggled with paying, but I didn't help her. So this woman's really desperate to hold on to this guy. I wonder why. Is it because he's paying half of the bills, or does she really love him? I didn't care too much about that, as I was more interested in being able to live in a nice place and get my needs met whenever I wanted. After confessing to her affair, she has given me the Greek god treatment, and I'll confess I've taken full advantage of it. Now, I'm not sure what he's talking about when he's talking about Greek god treatment, but I have kind of an idea. I made it clear to her that regardless of what she does for me, we will never, and I mean never, get married. She's no longer marriage material in my eyes, but I'm sure there are plenty of guys out there that would take her in a minute, and I've told her she should move on if that's what she wants. She's told me she only wants me and is willing to put in the work to win me over, as one day she'd like to be my wife and have my children. I've told her over and over that's never going to happen, but she still thinks I'll eventually change my mind. During the year that followed, she did everything for me and I did very little for her. She took care of the apartment, bought me expensive gifts, and gave me everything in the bedroom department. I didn't ask or make her do any of these things. She did them all on her own. Regarding our bedroom activity, if there's a day when I don't want it, she gets upset and worries that I'm pulling away. I guess this is her way of making things up to me and keeping me tied to her in some way. It's like she's obsessed about having S with me now. Yeah, she probably is, because she thinks that's the way she's going to be able to pull you back in. And from the sounds of it, you're falling for it. During that first year, I didn't go anywhere with her. I didn't go to any of her family functions and didn't take her with me to mine. I didn't go to weddings or parties with her, and we only went out to eat a handful of times. In that time, she bought me an expensive sports watch, a new laptop, and an iPhone. So she's spending money like water even though she can't afford the apartment she's living in. I didn't really want or really need any of these gifts, but she insisted I keep them, so I did. Yeah, sure, you just wanted to keep them. Meanwhile, I didn't buy her anything that year, but did pay for our meals when we went out to eat, including on her birthday when I spent over $700 on food, wine, and concert tickets. Again, why are you spending this kind of money when you can't even afford to live in the apartment where you're living? I also took her to and from the clinic several times when she had to have a procedure done and nursed her through the recovery process that followed. She told me this meant more to her than anything, and her parents still thank me today for how I took care of her. So that was last year. This year I've started acting more like I used to before she cheated. We've been going out more together and spending a lot more time with friends and family. I've taken her on a couple weekend getaways, and I find myself thinking about her all the time when we're apart. You see how she's reeling him back in? For a while there, I thought I might be able to put the past behind us and build something new with her. But something happened to me last weekend that totally changed my mind. I was playing a game on my laptop and had the TV on in the background. I wasn't really paying attention to the TV until a show came on that made me stop my game and start watching. It was a story about a wife who was cheating on her husband. What really got to me is how the wife and her lover mocked and belittled the husband when they were together. The woman pretty much viewed her husband like toilet paper, who'd always be there to wipe her ass whenever she wanted. This got me thinking about my girlfriend and her lover, and how they must have mocked and belittled me when they were together. When she confessed, my girlfriend swore they never did this, but I don't believe it. I know they did, and it really pisses me off. You're just realizing this now after 2 years? Come on, dude. Since watching that damn show, I've been reading a ton of posts from guys who've been in my situation, which has only taken me further down the rabbit hole. I've been so upset about this, I can't function properly, and it's starting to affect me not just mentally, but physically too. Yesterday, while at the store to pick up some ibuprofen, I took my blood pressure on one of those machines and it was 169/116 and my pulse was 92. I took it again before checking out and the results were only slightly better. I've never had health problems before, and I know it's all a result of me being upset over this. I don't think I've ever gotten over what she did, and instead of dealing with it, I just buried the negative thoughts in the back of my head. Seeing that show brought everything out, and now I've got to face my demons. And this is what you'll hear from a lot of people who've been cheated on and try to work it out. Something always happens that triggers them, and it brings all those thoughts cascading back. It might happen in a month, a year, 2 years, and that's what you have to realize. Those thoughts never leave your mind. You may try to bury them somewhere, but they're going to come out. Today at work, I decided I'm going to move out as I can't go on like this. My mind is really messed up, and I feel like I'm on the verge of losing it. I know this is going to be hard on her, but I've got to do it for my health and sanity. I'll continue paying my share of the expenses until the lease expires, but I just can't live with her anymore. So now it sounds like he's moving in the right direction, right? But now listen to what he says next. I'm not officially going to end things with her, but I do want to cool things off for a while. If she decides she doesn't want that, then we can go our separate ways. That's probably the best thing for us anyway. Yes, it is. Thanks for letting me spill my guts. I'm feeling a little better already just putting this out there. And that's the end of his original post. Now, next we're going to take a look at some of the comments he received, and he comes back with a final update. But before we do that, I want to remind you, if you like what you've heard so far, make sure you hit that like button. That will help get this video seen all over the world. Now, let's take a look at some of those comments. And I tried to pick out comments that I really felt were value added. He got a lot of comments from people giving him a lot of shit, both from women who were saying, oh, you know what, you should try to work it out. She confessed to you. And some men also were saying, hey man, you jumped the gun too fast. And then he got a lot of comments from guys that are saying, get out of there. What's wrong with you, you wimp, and other names they were calling him. So what I tried to do is go through the comments and look at the ones that were most value added, where people actually gave him some good advice. And the first one's from a woman. She says, you had me on your side until you moved back in and started a toxic relationship with your girlfriend. You either need to forgive her and try to move on, which is extremely difficult to do, or break up. Anything in between falls into the toxic zone, which is where you both are living now. The next response is from a guy. He says, GTFO, I don't mean move out, I mean you need to break it off with her and move on with life. Even though she's been going along with this for the past 2 years, it's not healthy for either of you and you're just wasting each other's time. Be a man and do the right thing. Next, we've got another response from a guy. He says, what your girl was doing by constantly wanting to be physical is love bonding. I think that's what it's called. She feels guilty about what she did and sees this as her way to make it up to you. It's a mental thing and very unhealthy. I learned this in therapy after my ex had a one-night stand and we tried making it work. We eventually split up. You see what I mean? A lot of these situations where people try to make it work, they usually end at some point. So that's my point. Why do you want to put yourself through the purgatory? Just get it over with and move forward. And the final response is from a woman. She says, you both seem very young and immature. If you'd ask me, I'd recommend you split up for a while, months, and see what happens. My college boyfriend cheated on me and we did a lot of the same things you described here. Eventually, we decided to take a pause during the summer break and ended up never getting back together. In hindsight, I should have just ended it with him after I found out. Yes, you should have, just like this guy should have done when he found out. So those are some of the comments, and now he comes back with his final update, which occurred 53 days later. He says, I'm out. I've moved out 3 weeks after I posted this here, and I haven't regretted anything. When I told her, she was really upset and cried every day right up to the day I walked out the door. I felt bad, but I had to get out of there. Like I said before, I'm going to keep paying my share of the expenses until the lease is up. Then she's going to be moving out as she can't afford it by herself. I'm currently back at my cousin's place and I'm going to stay here for the next few months as I can't afford to pay 2 leases at once. He's a good dude and is doing me a solid by letting me live here for $500 a month until I get my own place. I trust him and he's really helped me get through this mentally as he's had his own struggles with women over the years. Now again, listen to what he says next. My girl and I still see each other once or twice a week and it's good now. It's like we're back to dating again, and I actually look forward to seeing her now. We're sort of in a Netflix and chill mode these days, and I'm okay with that. Now you can see with this guy, as it is the case with many guys, a woman can manipulate them by using her body. And it may sound good, this Netflix and chill mode that he's in right now, but let me tell you something, it's not healthy and it's not going to last long term, and all you're going to be doing is wasting time. He goes on, he says, before any of you start criticizing me, let me say that I don't have a problem hooking up with a woman who cheated on me. I just don't want to be married or in a relationship with one. She's not crazy about things and wants us back together as a couple, but she knows where I stand and doesn't push the envelope. She understands it's either this or a breakup and she doesn't want that. So for all the haters out there who've been giving me shit, I say get a life. What I do is none of your damn business. And that's the end of his story. Now, I'm sure you can tell I don't agree with how this guy is handling this situation. What he's got going on right now with this woman is totally toxic and it's not going to work out long term. So my recommendation is end it and move forward and let her move forward as well. And now I want to take a look at what I think are the morals of this story. The first one, live within your means and invest for your future. You should always try to live below your means so that you're comfortable, so that you're strong, so that you're confident. And put money away for the future, especially when you're young. That money will compound over the years and you'll be comfortable when you get older, instead of blowing all your money and not having anything left at the end of the month. Next, cheating is never a mistake and is seldom a one-time thing. That goes without saying. Cheating is not a mistake. You had to do a lot of planning. Even in a situation like this, you heard him say she went back a second time. So the first time, maybe you could say, oh, I made just a terrible mistake. I was drinking too much, this and that. But then you went back a second time. Oh boy. Next. Physical acts cannot heal the mental wounds of infidelity. And that's the case in this situation. You heard from him that this woman has been giving him everything and anything for the last 2 years, but that still hasn't taken the thought of her with this other guy out of his mind. And guess what? It never will. Next. Never stay in a toxic environment. Whether it's a situation like this where cheating is involved or any toxic environment, you need to get out of there because if you don't, it's going to affect you both mentally and physically. And finally, don't try to salvage something that's irreparable. Instead, move on to the next chapter of your life. You've heard people make analogies like, hey, cheating is like breaking a vase into a million pieces. Yes, you could take the time to glue all those million pieces back together, but guess what? That vase will never be the same as it was before. And that's the situation in relationships when cheating has occurred. You can try to make it work and you can put in all the time and years and effort. And in the end, it's never going to be the same as it was before. So those are my thoughts. And now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story and how do you think this guy handled it? I'm sure you don't agree with how he handled this situation, or maybe you do. Tell us about it in the comments. Also, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you on the next one.